Friday night in Phoenix. You're listening to
the Absolute Geek Podcast.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast. I am Matt.
I am Snide Kyle.
I'm Brian.
And tonight with us we have a very special host filling in for Corbin, who couldn't be here tonight. We have Travis from Comic Exposure. Welcome, Travis.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'll be the guy peeing every 15 minutes. So if you don't see me, that's where I am.
There you go. Appreciate you filling in for Corbin tonight, who decided he wanted to go out on a hot date.
Okay, but when I fill in for Corbin, guys, I do not want to take all of Corbin's shit. I'm not taking that. I refuse to be your whipping boy.
I don't blame you.
No, that's
I gotta say, Travis, I like your setup, man.
Oh, thank you, yeah. You know, there's something about I don't even know how well this works, but I do love a good claw mic or whatever the hell these things are.
Boom mic.
Yeah, boom mics here.
So, real quick, I just on the subject of Travis's setup, you mentioned if for you guys that don't know, Travis is in Japan. What's the living space is like over there? Is it super tiny?
Yeah, typically it's super tiny. So I have a government job out here, so the government pays for my housing, and so they give you a pretty good housing allowance. So I get a big like Western style house because I don't dig on the Japanese style houses. I don't like the Tommy mats; they smell. I don't like any of that stuff. I don't like like the low ceilings and like having a bunch of little tiny rooms. So I got locked out. This is a pantry. I'm a bachelor, so I had this big pantry. I'm like, I never have this much food. So now it's a pocket. You can see this is the washing machine right here. So if you hear like a ding, it's just I'm like, oh, let me just get some hot laundry out of here. Yeah. So let me change my name to Hot Laundry. How do I do that? So yeah, but it's typically pretty small. But they gave me I got a pretty good setup here. So
I like it, brother.
Thank you.
You'll always be known as Hot Laundry on our show now.
Hot Laundry. All right, next up on stage, coming at you, Hot Laundry.
Make sure you hit up that ass and titty machine.
Let me ask you a question. Where did you guys get the your intro? You guys have some people that are really kind of queuing up your thing. You guys meet about cons like Kevin Smith and things like that, or where did you guys meet all the people who gave the intro? Or did you go to Fiverr and get people to do impressions?
No, we did conventions and comedy shows mostly.
Yeah, nice.
Kevin Smith and Jay Muse at comedy shows, and then all the comic book creators at different conventions. That's
legit. I like that. It's a good setup.
See, that's the good thing about when if you get lucky enough to get an interview, you can ask them and they'll do it instead of paying them $50 at their table to say 5 words for you.
Exactly. Yeah, that feels a little cheap. It feels like prostitution almost. Yeah.
Right.
Or what's that thing where you pay them to do like a thing for you over the internet, like
yeah, Fiverr or no, it's I can't remember what it's called now. But yeah, you can donate and they'll like say stuff for people, personalized greetings and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of Jason Mewes ones. I've seen a couple Rob Liefeld ones.
So. Oh, I've seen a lot of Rob Liefelds.
I've also seen a lot of like not very not very star YouTube people. Does that make sense? Like
YouTubers, yeah.
Like YouTubers that like shouldn't be being paid to do stuff. So
let me ask you a question. Did you guys when you had your answering machines, did anyone do any hokey stuff with their answering machines as far as that's concerned?
Always, man. Every single time.
What was your best bit? Do you remember like any of your good?
Oh man, that was when I was a kid. I mean, we all had them like the Joe's Bar and Grill. You kill them, you kill them. You slap them, you stab them, we slap them. Shit like
the
that.
Old like after the beep, and then you're like beep. You're like, I'm just fucking with you. That was me. I'm a little scamp.
My personal favorite was still when you like answer. You're like, hello,
hello,
hello, yeah.
Oh my God! There's so much blood.
Yeah.
Hello.
But some place that still has a really awesome answering machine message is Gator World. If you ever get a chance to call Gator World,
what's Gator World?
It's a place. It's like a amusement park in Florida where you can go pet alligators and it's all alligators and stuff.
You know what? I should have known. I should have guessed that.
By Gator World,
I probably could have guessed that one. I was like, "There's no way it's like an actual Gator World." But yep, sure enough, it was.
Yeah.
My best friend, who's also my roommate, he still to this day has my favorite like voicemail message / answer machine message. It literally is, "Do not leave a message. I will not call you back unless you're my mom. Do not leave a message." And I'm like, dude, that is fucking genius.
And he still gets
absolutely genius.
Yeah, people still probably leave him messages.
Yeah, but he never checks them. So
who checks those?
Moms, yeah.
You can't even get someone to answer their phone half the time nowadays, let alone check
know.
their answer machines.
I know.
Now you got the luck of visual voicemail, so like you can just read it, and it reads it to you, and you're like, I don't even have to listen to you.
Unless you have T-Mobile and it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah,
lame.
That's rough.
Oh well. Or you could be really lucky and have Verizon and get free Disney Plus.
There you go.
Is that what they're doing?
Yeah. Verizon
for a year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just telling Kyle before the show that I think I'm gonna actually break down and go sign up for Disney Plus. But I've been complaining about all the different streaming services, how you got to have 12 of them or whatever. So I think I'm just gonna get rid of them all, but Amazon Prime, and just go log on to Disney Plus for a couple months and get my fill of Mandalorian and gargoyles and call it a day.
It's worth it.
Yeah. That's what I hear. I'm waiting to watch Mandalorian, though. I want to let it get a couple episodes in so I can binge watch at least 2 or 3 episodes.
Oof.
That's a tough one, because being in like the nerd world, especially in the podcasting world, it's so tough to not get that stuff spoiled.
Yeah, I don't mind it getting spoiled because I'm such a Star Wars nerd that I'll geek out over it still. But
yeah.
Have you guys, one of the things that my brother has been doing, my brother likes to do, is he'll go on YouTube and watch like the storylines of all the video games. And he's been watching the storyline of the new Star Wars video game. Have you guys seen that? Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, fucking cool, man. I've been watching that.
It's not bad.
Yeah, he got me hooked on it. And
what era of like the Star Wars universe does that take place?
Right after the killing of all the Jedis. So it's basically like a young Jedi that's trying to go find other Force-sensitive children to try and rebuild, the Order.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as far as I've gotten in. So he's kind of running around the world so far with a Jedi that, quote unquote, turned off her Force powers because for whatever reason she turned them off. But
it's like turning off your iPhone tracking. You're like, oh shit, Mom, I'm about to get in some real nasty shit tonight, so it's better if you don't know where I'm at.
Right. I haven't played it yet, so I don't know. I just downloaded it and installed it when I got home, so I haven't had a chance to fire it up yet. So I'm excited. I'm excited to play it. That's what I'm gonna do tonight and this weekend, mostly probably.
Do you think the Star Wars franchise video games, I'm not a big gamer, do you think that they continually have some of the best storylines in video games?
That depends.
I think it's hit and miss, isn't it?
It's hit and miss, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, what was the one with the 2 twins where they kill one of them and it causes the dude to go evil and he's a Sith? He's got the scar on his face. You guys know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the name of it. That one was really good. I'm sure Tim is in the chat just screaming at us. Yeah, that one was really good. I was really disappointed with what was the World of Warcraft one they were trying to pull off. That thing was fucking garbage from the get-go. It was such a disappointment. I was really looking forward to it. Knights of the Old Republic is amazing. Yeah, I think it's kind of hit or miss.
If you could create like gameplay for a Star Wars game, like what environment would you want to play, or like what era would you like want to like inhabit as far as like a character is concerned?
I love the legacy era of the comics. I really love that era.
Mm-hmm.
With Cade Skywalker, I think is his name. It's got the I just love that comic run. It was a really good comic run. I was a big fan of that. And this is going to sound crazy, but I'm just a huge fan of Darth Maul. So anything that they could do with Darth Maul, I'd be stoked to play. If they kind of do like a side story of Darth Maul that has nothing to do with the prequels, that's what I would be stoked to play. And of course, anything with Vader.
I think after this like last episode of Mandalorian, I'm down for like a Jawa Mario Party type game.
Fucking A, bro.
Like where you're just like little Jawas bouncing around playing stupid little fucking games, like pumping up balloons and stuff.
Great
like,
idea.
Hoarders, something like that.
Mario Party was probably the best game that I've ever played with a bunch of friends, because it involved, at the time of my life, a shit ton of drugs and like days on end of playing that game. Like a game that little kids would play, and we thought it was the fucking greatest thing to ever play.
It sounds like a great stoner game.
Yeah.
Just like colors and easy to follow rules.
Yeah.
I'd like to punch Jawa. I don't know.
Those are the best games because you know how like you'll start something and then I'll take it off. It's like enough time to do like a bong hit. You're like, oh shit, and they're like, all right, okay, here we go. Where's the sticks? Let me get it.
Kind of like on this topic though, I think The Mandalorian is the best thing to happen to Star Wars in a long time, and I think that Jon Favreau is going to be the savior of this franchise, and I really hope they let him do more, especially in the movie realm, because the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian are fantastic.
I've heard a lot of that, but I've also heard that some of the acting is really iffy.
I've not yet seen any iffy acting. I would need, I guess, you to give examples to kind of be like, yeah.
No, I at first when you realize The Mandalorian, we could talk about this at some point. Is he going to take the mask off ever? And do you want him to take the mask off ever? But, that mask acting is really tough. And I thought he did a fantastic job with the body language and the voice work. Because even though he's speaking through a mask, it is somewhat kind of filtered as if it's going through there. That's really tough to convey emotions through that. And I thought they did it. I thought it was a really good job at that because that's not easy to do. I mean, look at the Green Goblin and, first Spider-Man. We've seen that done pretty bad where it's, the voice doesn't seem to match with the character and everything there. And I thought it was pretty strong. I know that's really difficult to get across, especially if he's not going to take the mask off ever and to care about this character through however many episodes they're going to have. Yeah,
Jay says it got a little cheesy with the bull riding part in the first episode. I can kind of see that where he's trying to tame the mount. I can feel that a little bit, but I mean, otherwise, as far as like the acting goes, and like Travis said, his ability to really act through the mask and use body language and stuff, and just the storyline and the way they're not shying away from the violence. It's PG-13. They're not going super violent with it, but like you still know what's going on.
Shout out to Chad for correcting Jay before I had a chance.
The IG-11. Oh my god. That thing is
I'm such a big fan of those.
Dude, that's my favorite droid.
Yeah. I remember that figure as a kid was such a big deal to me.
Dude, he just walks around and I know he's a droid, but it's just like a zero fucks given.
Yeah, the bounty hunter droid. Voiced by Taika Waititi.
So did Bill Burr show up in the first 2 episodes yet?
He has not been in there yet, no. I'm
really looking forward to that.
Nick Nolte did a pretty solid job.
Yes, he did.
I thought he's like, yeah, it's perfect. I missed that dude.
There was a couple of celebrity cameos in the first episode. Brian Posehn was in the first episode too.
Yeah, Horatio Sands.
Yep, for like 5 minutes.
But I heard Bill Burr's supposed to play an actual pretty decent role, like multiple episodes. I'm not sure how true it is, but that's kind of what I've heard. I mean, enough so that they showed him on the trailers, on the commercials before the first episode came out.
But yeah, I mean, I like the subtle hints in the one that he's trying to pay for the bounties, and he's like, those are Imperial credits. The Empire's fallen; those aren't worth anything. And it just kind of how they references everything that's still going on.
That line really hit me too. I really, that was like a nerd tingle in that one. I was like, oh yeah, this just that small line just kind of sets you where you're at in the. It's really important that you know where you're at, and because Star Wars is this big epic. Like, where are we?
Yeah,
where are we at?
Yeah.
Is this before? Is Darth around? Are there Darths? The Jedi around? And so I thought that was a really great line. And I love how we're exploring the less epic characters, and we get to see like the kind of the street level, how the Empire stuff affected the street level politics and economics of the world very subtly in this.
I think Rogue One kind of proved that you could do that and do it well, and people would really love it. I think a lot of the real big Star Wars fans had wanted to see something, of that, the non-major, like you said, the street level people, the people that we don't, none of the big, super big characters. We want to. You have such a huge universe to play with. Let's dip our toes in those other pools.
Who was saying that Jon Favreau did it because his older brother got the cool toys and he got all the other toys, so that was what he was used to playing with.
Right. No, I think one of the things that happens with Star Wars, the more when we just tell them in these big epic movies and we have these characters, is that sometimes the characters we're introduced to, especially this new crop of characters that we've gotten in the last couple of movies, they're already so noble and so, larger than life, and they're already making these right choices, and they have already a moral compass that they become harder to relate to. Because they're coming out of the box already kind of fully formed as these heroes. Now, they might change them and take them on different things with this new movie. But I like we're exploring these gray characters in these gray areas of Star Wars, which you used to see a little bit. Like Han Solo was when he first came out, that was a gray character. We're like, this guy is a scoundrel, you know? And a lot of these characters were. But now with this new crop of Star Wars, Rogue One was a little different. There's some great characters in there, but I think with like Rey and Finn and Poe, I'm like, yeah, you're heroes. Like, I get it, and I am not a hero. I go, I need you to come down to my level. All right, Star Wars, I need you to do some shady shit that I can relate to, and do some morally questionable things. So I like how that this is a little bit more relatable Star Wars.
My problem with the big movies, like the Skywalker sagas and all that bullshit, is so goddamn predictable. I know there's going to be a freaking shield up that you're not going to be able to get it down unless you go in by land, or you know what I mean? I know that there's going to be a Jedi that's going to, almost go dark, and it's like, it's so predictable, it's unreal. And that's why I loved Rogue One, and that's why I'm really looking forward to Mandalorian. That's why I love a lot of the comic books and the video games. The big movies are just so predictable, and I'm tired of it.
Well, Mandalorian, I was just talking about this not too long ago, is really kind of, it picks a very similar trope that you've seen with Lone Wolf and Cub, and the Logan movie, and Cable did it with Hope in comics, and the Cable comics a while ago. So that's the setup. And I love the desperado character who has to protect an innocent character. And I don't know how much we're spoiling with this, but that is the setup. It's that Lone Wolf and Cub. The disgruntled outsider has to change and have his character arc based on protecting this innocent character. And I always love those stories.
Very much like the spaghetti western / True Grit.
Very well, yeah. Some Clint Eastwood stuff, yeah. And I love that. I don't know, and it's just, there's something I think as like guys really respond to that. There is a sense that character, that outside cool character, all of a sudden gets a chance to be vulnerable and more human. Isn't that what we're all wanting, guys? It's just to break down and let down our guards and be a little more vulnerable. But yeah, I think we respond to that storyline really well, and I always love that.
I think that's, like Brian was saying, that's one of the things I like about the Mandalorian is you don't know where he resides. You think you're kind of like, is he good? Is he bad? Like which side of the line is he? And it's so neutral, and it's so just right
he's
down
just
the
trying
middle.
he's just trying to make a living. Exactly.
It's pretty much what it is. He's got nothing against anyone. He's just out there making some bucks. So
one of the things I found was interesting, based on what you're saying, Matt, too, is like, where's he coming from? The one thing that seems to be a rock in his character is he's very concerned with Mandalorian tradition and ancestry. That seems to be very important to this character. He very much identifies himself as a Mandalorian. It seems to be a dying culture or a dead culture. I don't know too much about the Mandalorian culture and the other parts of Star Wars. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of ancillary material on it. But he seems to be struggling between his job and also like wanting to keep this Mandalorian culture alive. Like, he talks about Mandalorians never drop their weapons. Mandalorians never give this up. Mandalorians never do that. And everyone talks about Mandalorians as this very respected culture that seems to be very almost extinct. And so he seems to be very much the promoter of this. And the job that he has to do in his first 2 episodes comes in direct conflict with people who hired them, who seem to be promoting that nationalism of Mandalorian culture as well. So it'll be interesting to see that conflict play out between his desire to keep this Mandalorian culture alive and also to do what he individually believes is right. So,
well, I think what's interesting about that is, then that's why I say his character, you can't really draw a line, because when he goes after the asset, he's not given a hollow puck or nothing. He's told coordinates and where to go. And then you show up, and all these other bounty hunters have hollow pucks, and they're coming after this asset in different ways. So it's almost like the guy who gave him this mission was doing so knowing that he was going to make noble choices versus what everyone else is trying to do.
Right. No, I agree.
So it's all I know is, I don't want to spoil it too much for people who haven't seen it yet, but the asset.
Everybody's seen it except Brian.
Well, I'm intrigued most by the asset because, you know, you only see like, I think one other of his race in the entire Star Wars franchise.
It's brilliant.
You don't
that
know,
reveal is brilliant.
You don't know anything about their race. Their race is always, you know, talked about as being unknown, and I think it's like he's the most fucking adorable thing. I want one.
Oh, yeah. You might have just ruined it for me, man.
Did
I think of adorable.
Oh, what a fucking
Star
dick.
Wars! It totally ruins Star Wars for me. You got the fucking Ewoks, which almost ruined, you know, Jedi. Then you got the fucking Gungans or whatever, or what's his name? Was he Gungan?
Jar Jar Binks?
Yeah, I can't remember. Whatever his.
Yeah, I think he was Gungan.
Yeah,
I didn't want to say that because I don't want to know that, but I do know that. So
I know, right? Cuteness ruins Star Wars for me. So
I don't know. I think this character.
Like we're all like really quiet. We're like, well, you might have some issues with.
Yeah.
I think you might have a different thought.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. All I know too is the Mandalorian. Like you said, they're respected as being badasses, and they're talked about and kind of referenced as being badasses. Like when he goes to the planet and he's looking for the asset, and he's like, how am I supposed to find this asset? And he's like, you're a Mandalorian, figure it out, use what you're trained
You're a
to do.
Mandalorian, you figure it. Like, this guy, this is great. Yeah, that Mandalorian culture. Does anyone know? Do any of you guys know? Brian, you seem to know a lot about Star Wars. Has that been brought up in any of like the other comics or anything like that?
Yeah, it's been brought up in books and comics, but I got to be honest, I can't remember, because I was just about to ask that. I can't remember when it changed from, the whole Jango Fett type thing,
the clones and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because the Mandalorians were around forever, right before the clones. So, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah,
that's a very good question. That's a hole in my Star Wars lore that I'm sure Chad and Tim are screaming at me.
Oh, I'm sure Disney's going to try to fill your hole.
Yes,
big time. They're going
to fill holes.
Yeah, thank God it's a small hole.
Yeah, they're going to jam some Delorean right up there.
And it's interesting when you see him go and to get like that shoulder piece made, and you see like the kids running around in helmets, and how it's very that Mandalorian tradition where they always have to have some piece of armor on, and that armor is important, to where even like the little kids have helmets, and And like that armor is badass. You see how badass it is in the second episode when he's just getting the shit kicked out of him by that rhino thing, and his chest plate's all bent up and popping off, and his helmet doesn't come off. I was joking with my buddy we were watching. I was like, the Mandalorians have to have a chin strap underneath that helmet or something, because when he takes that charge from the rhino, his helmet doesn't even like almost come off at all.
It's spirit glue.
Yeah. Essence of Mandalorian. But
no, I look for it. What do you think about it? Not the episodes not coming out all at once. Is that a plus for you, or is that a
negative? I'm so used to it.
Yeah. I honestly think it is a brilliant strategy on Disney's part, because if they're giving you a 7-day free trial right off the bat, so if they release them all at once, you're gonna binge them all in 7 days, cancel your subscription. Now you have to wait. So weekly, they're just securing, not that they need to, but they're securing those subscriptions if you're going to get into that show and continue on.
Well, okay, so here's the other question: has it being one episode a week or whatever caused you to watch many other things on Disney Plus? I know I'm looking forward to Gargoyles and Darkwing Duck and some of the Batman animated series. Is that on there? Batman the animated series?
Batman isn't though, but X-Men is, Spider-Man. They've pretty much got like all the Marvel cartoons.
Okay,
on there.
That's what I mean. I don't know why I said Batman. I meant to say X-Men.
Yeah, my favorite thing right now to do, honestly, on there is go through those animated series and see the mistakes that Disney has. So like if you go watch like
Dumbo.
X-Men, well, like Spider-Man is odd. It's numbered incorrectly. So their first episode isn't the actual first episode of the series. Like it's the way they did the numbering is incorrect. Is incorrect, and they did the same thing with X-Men. And then people are flipping out because the Simpsons are not in the right aspect ratio for that time. So,
well, another thing that I thought was very interesting is they finally decided to release some of those older, culturally insensitive cartoons. Like I know there were some cartoons
like
some
Song of the South.
Song of the South. Yeah,
so
is that on there?
That is not on there. No,
it's not on there yet. And they said they would never release that, but they did. They did, like on Dumbo and on what was the one with the Siamese kittens? The
Aristocats.
Yeah, Aristocats.
Is it Aristocrats or just Lady and the Tramp?
I think it's We Are Siamese.
Yeah.
I think that was Tramp.
That's Lady and the Tramp. Yeah. Fantasia.
So, they actually kind of put like, just a heads up. This was done in a time where time was a little different and it was a little culturally insensitive.
Yeah.
Which I think is we should be seeing those things because. It's a saying that everybody harkens back to, but you need to know your history or you're bound to repeat it. So if you censor that stuff, then you kind of you need to see those things. You need to know about what it was like and how bad it was.
They're not letting one group ruin it for everyone else.
Yes.
So I think Disney Plus is worth it. Like I said, Darkwing Duck. I've pretty much done nothing but watch Disney Plus the last couple days. Darkwing Duck, Gargoyles, X-Men, movies and shows I had forgotten about, like anything and everything Disney pretty much is on there.
Me and Kyle were talking about DuckTales.
DuckTales.
And he blew me away because he went on there and took a look at it, and he's like, 1987. DuckTales came out in 1987?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit. That's
crazy, right?
Oh, I totally thought that was the 90s.
Yeah. Disney had those cartoons, DuckTales, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, maybe some of the best run of theme songs in all cartoon history. Those theme songs,
sure.
like I could work out to those theme songs. That's how good they are, man. I could go on a long 2-mile jog and just be, life is like a hurricane. If someone was like, "What are you listening to?" I'd be like, "Oh, Jay-Z or something." But in my head,
oh man, that's good stuff.
But what else? One of my favorite shows, honestly, on there right now is it's like Jeff Goldblum Explores the World. It's a National Geographic show, but it's 2 episodes, and like the first episode was him talking about sneakers, and this one was him talking about ice cream, and it's just so fascinating to me because he's a fascinating person.
Is there an episode where he watches you poop?
Not yet.
How long are the episodes? How long are you watching him like eat ice cream?
Like I think 40 minutes
6
to an
hours.
hour. Yeah, it's
Oh, jeez. I thought you were gonna say 10, 15 minutes tops.
no, it's
Yeah.
it's awesome. Like it's just hearing his input on stuff and watching him do the things he's doing on those shows. It's I don't know. It just intrigues me. I think it's just because he as an actor and a person is so intriguing. His mannerisms, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. I think
he's like human ASMR. Like he's just like there's something soothing about it.
Pretty much. I don't know why I'm watching, but I can't look away. He's like a human train wreck, in the best possible way. So, but I think Disney Plus is worth it if you're looking into it. Honestly, in my opinion. Just with all the content on there, and some of the content you have to search for. It's not always right on the main page. Like you have to search for. So I've just been doing a lot of digging into the streaming service, and so far I'm impressed with it.
Is everything on there, or are they still putting stuff on there?
There's some things that'll never be on there. Like they're saying, like the Spider-Man movies will never be on there. But here's one thing that might intrigue you. I don't know if you have a 4K TV, but they have all the original Star Wars movies in 4K.
I heard that
you can't even buy them in 4K.
Yeah, I heard that's really, really good. I had a lot of people talking about that.
But for $7 a month, you can watch them.
Yep.
Do they have like the 70s Disney movies like Apple Dumpling Gang?
Yep.
And like
they have everything. Bed Knobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
What was the one with the UFO on the mountain with Betty Davis? Remember that one? I think Rock did a redo of it.
Is it Escape from Witch Mountain?
Yeah.
Yep, that's on there. The original and remake of The Parent Trap are on there.
So I got a funny story for you guys, and I hope this is one of the drinking game words. For those of you out there that are into UFOs,
dude, it's already fucked, man. We're all wasted already, dude. It's fucked.
Disney back in the day was gonna do a UFO documentary, and the rumor is that the government wanted to come out and find, like they did with Tom DeLonge and To the Stars. They wanted to find like a group that, the populace wouldn't freak out if they told them that UFOs were real. And so the government went to Disney and they gave them footage of a supposed meeting between aliens and Dwight Eisenhower when Eisenhower was president. And they actually made this documentary, and they were getting ready to run it. If you look in old TV guides at the time, it actually says, the documentary was supposed to air on, I guess back in the early 80s or late 70s, the Disney used to have like an hour on ABC every week, every Sunday or something. And it was actually supposed to air. And like 2 days before they pulled it, the government was like, got cold feet and they pulled it. So Disney had to run something else. So I'm always kind of, hoping that in the back of my mind that will eventually get released. And hey, you never know, might show up on Disney Plus.
It's called Freaky Friday.
Narrated by Werner Herzog.
Yeah.
And now the Friday will get freakier.
As little Eisenhower meets an alien. And it's just the alien from that stupid Mac and Me fucking movie.
Yeah.
But
I heard somewhere. I heard is Nickelodeon going to try? Nickelodeon's trying to get a deal with Netflix, right? Or is that
they
what
did.
Netflix
Done deal? Yes.
Done deal,
they announced
right?
it yesterday. Yep.
Yeah.
You can't do that on television.
That's their big move, huh?
Yep.
That's smart.
McAllister.
What?
You guys don't get that? You guys don't remember that?
What, McAllister?
Yeah.
Like Kevin McAllister?
Yeah.
Like Home Alone?
Come on.
No, not Kevin McAllister. Like, you can't do that on television. When they would jump, when they were in the lockers, and they would, Alanis Morissette would pop her head out the locker and, scream at somebody. And,
I don't remember that at all.
You guys don't remember that Canadian show with
No.
Bart?
No.
Yeah, Kyle
Slime
remembers.
came from.
That's where the slime came from.
Oh, the double.
You would say I don't. If anybody said I don't know on you
That's
can't do
right.
that on television, they would get slimed. So the whole point of the show was to get one of the actors to say I don't know, and a lot of up and coming actors from the late '80s and early '90s were on that show. Alanis Morissette, a couple others, and one of the main characters is a guy named McAllister. And anyways,
I'm
it
sorry.
was a public access show in Canada that Nickelodeon picked up when they first started.
Nice.
I'm kind of looking at the chat here. I'm a little bit worried about your boy Chad there, Kyle. He looks like he may be having a stroke. I don't know. I don't know what you hate Seth Oregon's UFA alien talk. I don't know who Seth Oregon is.
I don't think Chad knows what he's talking about half the time.
And
I think he's
apparently our podcast is racism at its finest.
It has to be something. I know one thing right now.
What's that?
I won't be giving this book away tonight.
But I think the Disney. I might be wrong, but I think the Netflix Nickelodeon.
No, you're right. We won't be giving it away.
Well, you never know, man. You never know.
The Netflix Nickelodeon stuff, I think, is just for movies, like to remake like another Rocco movie and like the old Nicktoon stuff in movie form. So.
Oh, so they want to take control of the IP and make their own stuff from it?
Pretty much, kind of like what they've already done with Rocco and they did it with Rocco and Invader Zim so far.
I wouldn't mind like binging some Salute Your Shorts or like Hey Dude.
Fucking Salute Your Shorts.
Yeah.
That was one of the best TV shows on when that was on, man. That
Camp Anawana.
we hold you in our hearts.
Donkey lips.
Yeah.
I fucking love that show. Me and my brother would watch that show every
You
day.
think the jokes are so freaking stupid. Like I remember laughing at like every time he'd be like, makes me want to fart, and I'm like a little kid. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's like, hope we never
time.
part. Get it right or pay the price.
Every
Get
time
it
that
right
got
or
me.
pay the price.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good show.
But interestingly enough, though, it doesn't seem like I know Disney Plus had a bunch of issues on launch day, but it doesn't seem to stop people from subscribe to it since they've already got over 10 million subscribers in the service in the first couple of days it's been up. So,
Well, you forget that, there's a group of fans out there called Disney fans that are fucking ridiculously fanatic.
Disney crosses all platforms for everybody.
Yep.
well, and especially with the new merger with Fox, and you've got Simpsons and all these other shows on there. That's a little of something for everybody. So.
Yeah.
And all the shows that are developing for the streaming service, which kind of leads me into my thing is they're talking about developing a Nebula series for the service. So do you think that these smaller series like Falcon and Winter Soldier and Nebula, all these kind of like lower key smaller characters, do you think it's going to finally get you to that oversaturation that we constantly say is coming? Or
Chad's trying to say I called out Seth Rogen to a fight.
when did you do this?
I never called out Seth Rogen.
You called out fucking Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan I called out, but not Seth Rogen.
Seth
Wrong
Rogen.
Rogan.
Another Rogan.
Seth Rogen.
Seth
Come on,
Rogen.
everybody, keep coming in here. I want to give this book away tonight. Call
So-
your friend. Tell everybody.
Yeah. I see some
So-
more people showing up. Some familiar faces.
There you go.
I
What up,
see
guys?
some guys. I see some CBSI guys. Thanks for stopping in.
So smaller characters, lesser known characters, getting their own properties in Disney Plus. Do you think it's good for the market, or do you think it's going to cause oversaturation?
Do you mean like Moon Knight, like Marvel characters, like what they're doing with Moon Knight and Kamala Khan? And
Well, right, and now they just announced a Nebula series is coming, and
I'm all for a Nebula series as long as they get what's her name to play it. Is it going to be a cartoon?
no, it's going to be live action.
I'm cool. I'm cool with that. I like that chick that plays her, the chick from Doctor Who. She's really good. So I'm all for that. I think Nebula is a great character that they can do a lot with. we're all kind of waiting on bated breath to hear what's going on with Moon Knight, and there's talk about. I was listening to actually one of the guys who's in the chat tonight. Doc Joe has a podcast called The Collectibles. I was listening to them, and Sean. I was listening to them the other night, and they were talking about how the rumors about that they're gonna Moon Knight and Kamala Khan, and I forget who the other person was. They were saying we're actually not only going to show up. They're going to have shows, but they're going to show up in the MCU in Phase 5. So I'm really hoping that the same, that they that is in continuity, I guess would say, like, kind of like how they did with Daredevil, where, there was word that if they got Daredevil in the MCU, it wouldn't be played by Charlie Cox. I want the same actor to play him. I want the stories to intertwine. I think that they would really do well to have those stories intertwined. And it can be in a movie, it can be in a series. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to, I really think that they would also do a disservice if they do a PG. I mean, it would be hard for them to do anything over PG-13, but if they do a PG or lower Moon Knight series, I'm over it if they do that. You know what I mean?
It's going to be, because they're not going to have anything R-rated on
That's fine.
Disney Plus.
Do PG-13.
13, yeah.
Yeah. Do PG-13. But, it's got to be somewhat dark. They got to do, some dark stuff.
I think with the fact that they're putting so much emphasis on these shows, and they're saying, like, you have to have the Disney Plus. You have to make sure that you're watching these shows because they're going to connect to where we go in the MCU moving forward. And you got WandaVision and Loki that are going to have an impact on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I think that notion of these are separate universes or they're not going to cross over is pretty much erased now, because I would be surprised if, with how heavily they're investing these TV shows in the overarching movie storylines, that they wouldn't show, these characters wouldn't show up even for a small cameo somewhere.
Well, we saw that already with the Mandalorian and Billy D. Williams. He's going to be in the new Star Wars, right, movie, right? And we see that cameo in Mandalorian.
Was Billy D. Williams in Mandalorian, or was that Apollo Creed? Carl Weathers.
No, it's Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers, not Billy D. Williams. Thank you, Carl Weathers. So we see,
just as cool to me.
Yeah, let's get that movie happening. Billy D. Williams. With all these new shows coming out, especially in Disney Plus, it's a bit overwhelming, the amount of content that's out there. So I think I've got to stop following the characters and start following the creative teams. Like, that's like the number one thing that will gonna get me to watch it. Who's writing it? Who's the showrunner? Who's producing it? Take, for example, Mandalorian. Jon Favreau is that huge, like, that would get me to watch it, but because that could have gone easily, it could have gone south really quickly depending on who you put in charge of it. So before, when this whole explosion of nerd culture came out and like we're getting like the Marvel shows on Netflix, you're like, a Daredevil show, I'll watch it. I don't care who's involved, I'll watch it. But now, because there's so much choice, I mean, even like we were talking on about an hour ago, my podcast partner, he was talking about the Watchmen, and I was like, oh yeah, I watched the first episode. And he was like, yeah, it's like episode 4 now. I'm like, is it really 4 episodes? Like, I didn't think it was bad. I was going to watch more of it, but more content just got in the way. And so now I before I start watching something, I got to kind of look at the creative team and be like, am I going to invest time with these creators? Because it's getting a lot. It's getting to be a lot out there.
Watchmen is actually one of those shows I say you gotta watch now. When I was the first episode, I was kind of on the fence about, but as the episodes have gone, it gets better and better each episode. So I'm totally invested in Watchmen for the remainder of the episodes to see where it goes. So yeah, I would definitely say
stick with that one.
Yeah,
I haven't started that one yet either, because I want to let there get a couple episodes in. I've really, these binge watching, Netflix style has really jaded me on the other things. Like, I have a really hard time even watching Titans, because I get to the end of the episode, I'm like, fuck, I want to watch another one. With word that they're doing a 3rd season of Titans, that I'm really stoked about that. But I just wish we get them all at once.
Well, it's changed water cooler talk when we used to have a couple of networks, and so you'd have those 5-6 shows that everyone was watching, and to a certain degree, you still have that. I mean, people still watch like Stranger Things and when Game of Thrones was out, but because there's just so much that, yeah, we're on a comic book nerd podcast, and people are like, oh, I haven't watched Watchmen or I haven't watched Mandalorian. It's not because Brian doesn't want to watch those things. It's just there's so much other stuff, but he could tell you about 20 other things he is watching. So like your water cooler talk is often starts with, no, I haven't seen that yet, but I'm gonna watch it, or as opposed to just, of course I watch Mandalorian. It's one of the only 5 shows that's out there that's geek culture, so of course I watch it.
Well, that's kind of worrisome though, because are we going to start seeing, or are we already seeing, a situation where because there's so much out there, we're only getting 1 or 2 seasons or 1 season of something that is really good that everybody is looking forward to, but because there's so much out there to watch, it's just not financially viable. It's just not, they're not going to be able to make any money off of it because they don't have as many people watching it.
It's watered down. The best part about pop culture isn't even the watching of it. It's the talking about it. It's the discussing it. It's feeling part of the community. And I mean, that's why it's pop culture, because it's popular. But when you have so much content and it's all spread out, those communities that are built around these pop cultural properties, they get a bit thinned out. Which is great, which is where podcasts and things come in, because you can go and watch a Preacher podcast. So if you can't scratch that itch around the water cooler at work, you can hear 3 guys, and because it's definitely going to be 3 guys talking about Preacher on a podcast, and same with some of these properties. So we do get to see that. We do get to see these niche communities build up, but the average civilian citizen that you work with or you carpool with or whatever, those kind of pop culture or cultural bonds, they seem to kind of be being pulled apart because everyone's watching their own different set of shows.
Yeah. Real quick, I see, Big Leg is in the chat. We got Sean in the chat. Sean is the comic book pressing extraordinaire. He is the guy that is a big reason why those books that you saw, Travis, came back so beautiful. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because Kyle gave us a little bit of information about Tim, who is a big friend of the show. And I really want Sean to hear this story. Because it really goes to show you kind of what we all go through grading books and why it's very important these days to, unless you know what you're doing, get some of those books pressed. So
you're on, Kyle.
So, oh shit!
You fucked up. You fucked up, Kyle. Take it back, Matt.
It's a podcast drinking game, man.
We're gonna roll it back. Star Wars.
Yeah, you had an opening.
Yeah.
Kyle, you're supposed to water that fucking whiskey down, man. You're not allowed to play the drinking game.
That was such a beautiful setup Ryan did too. He's like, I'm teeing you up.
But so what happened was, listener Tim, shout out, our moderator's actually not in the chat. He got a Spider-Man 300. I think his better half got him one from the local comic book store, sent it off to be graded. They were expecting a certain grade. It came back a 7. So he was pretty bummed out, and he's like, well, what I don't want to do now is I don't want, that was a book he wanted to send off to have Todd signed. And what I was telling him was, first off, that was my first question. Did this get pressed? And he says it did. He says it did. But I think what happened is there's not there's a lot of presses out there, but there's not a lot of good pressers.
Great point.
So somebody can press a book, but if you don't have a very good presser, then it's not gonna come back. And if you really, the big thing about pressing is it's not a miracle cure.
No.
And I think that's what a lot of people fall short of it. They think it's just because they sent it to press, no matter what the condition of the book is, it's coming back a 9.2 to a 9.8. And it's just not true. But what I said to him was, I said, because he's like, should I send it out still? And I said, well, what you should do is, what is it for? Are you flipping it or are you going to keep it? What is the objective of having this Spider-Man 300? He said, well, it's mine for my collection.
And it doesn't matter.
So that's what I told him. I said, here, look. I have a Spider-Man 300. It's signed by Todd McFarlane and Stan Lee, and it's a 7.5. This is for my personal collection. I've already put too much money into this book. Even if I wanted to sell it, I would never get back what I've put into it. So I said, it doesn't matter what the grade is. What I would do is get it signed anyway if it's for your personal collection.
Yeah.
And this is just part of when you get books graded, this is the gamble that you take. So like, here's another good example is Walking Dead #4. I got that book raw. The dude I bought it from guaranteed, when I bought it, it was a beautiful book. It had to have been at least a 9.4 or a 9.6. I looked at it. Brian looked at it. We looked at it. We sent it off. It comes back 8.5. Which, I mean, like, there's scratches on the back that didn't have when we shipped it out. But it's just kind of what happens when you grade books.
Yeah,
here's another good example. I cracked this book at a 9.6.
Yeah.
CGC graded this a 9.6. I got it signed by Kirkman and Moore. It comes back a 9.0.
I thought CGC, though, if you crack a book at a grade, it's automatically going to come back at that grade.
No.
So they
no, it's not
it?
Not CBCS, no.
Oh, that's CBCS?
Yeah, but they won't do that because two grading companies, might not hold the same standards.
Right.
I think what you're getting mixed up is I recently heard that if you get a signature series book by CGC and then you decide you want to have CBCS crack it and have somebody else sign it, CBCS will automatically yellow label the original signature based on CGC saying it was a yellow label.
To a certain, I think they cut it off at a certain date.
Really?
I think they've cut it off at a certain date.
Yeah, that's a maybe we need to look into that because there's a weird game being played with some of these signature series and people witnessing books and all that stuff. I know there was a couple scandals where certified witnesses for CBCS. There was a big deal a couple years back or a year or so back. So there's a lot of politics that are played in the grading game.
Can I ask you guys a question as far as pressing? I know the effect of pressing. I know the outcome of that. I don't know the process. Is it a pretty invasive process for the comic book? And what kind of liability does the presser have if you send them a book to press? And is it easy to damage a book in the pressing of it? Like,
don't feel bad about. Yeah, don't feel bad about not knowing the process because most of us don't because it's voodoo.
It's kind of a hidden secret. Yeah,
it's a hidden secret because
it's a trade. Yeah,
it's a trade. But basically, what you're doing is you're using a heat press, like a shirt press, and it's almost kind of like ironing a book,
crisping it. Yeah.
Yeah, good pressers will use humidity to get to pre-process the book. But the important thing with a good presser is one, they've done a lot of books, and seeing results or hearing results from other people. I've noticed that there's a lot of comic shops that are offering pressing services, and I feel like it's become a type of thing where they just go out and buy $150 t-shirt press, and they're waffle pressing books. You know what I mean? So they can definitely burn your books. They can definitely ruin books very easily, and they can rip you off because they probably charge a lot for a shitty job.
How a good presser and like the artistry of it, like how long do you think it would take to press a book if you're doing it the right way? Like how long is a good presser spending with a book?
I think about 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Not depending on what the pre-process is like. I know I've heard Sean.
The age of the book.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to bring up. I know I've heard Sean talk a lot about how, depending on if it's a modern or if it's a like a silver or bronze age book, it's different based on the type of paper they used. There's a lot of modern books that are very easy to press, and that you can press out a lot of issues. Depending on the type of paper they used and depending on the type of binding. For a long time, a lot of pressers couldn't press those old school Marvel square bound and DC square bound really thick books that they bind with glue, I guess.
Oh, that's depressing.
Yeah, because you're heating it up. So when you heat up the glue, it's releasing those pages, I guess. So over time, they've gotten good at and they've figured out ways to do it. And pressing now has kind of been a thing for, I don't know, maybe 5 years now, would you say, Kyle? So over that time, there's been a lot of tricks of the trade learned, and but there's also been a lot of really good books ruined. A good point of that is Doc Joe, Joe Seaborn, who was in the chat, who's also part of the Collectibles crew. I think that he got an AF-15. He sent an AF-15 in to be pressed and graded by CGC, and I think if I'm not mistaken, they either popped the staple or tore the cover.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and like the reason I bring that up is you talked about liability. That's the problem. When you're getting a book pressed, you're basically signing away that liability. I mean, you're doing some things to where they kind of make you sign something saying, "Hey, if something goes wrong,
sorry about your luck."
Sorry,
dude.
That's just the way it is.
Pressing comics sounds like super sexy. It's like pressing, glue, popping staples. Like this is like I can become a comic book presser. Yeah.
But here's the other thing. I know that in the a couple years back, a lot of people were pressing at a certain price point, and you get a lot of business, and you're getting a lot of books. And I would imagine the price point has got to go up because these guys are pressing so many books that they don't have time to do it. So, they kind of got to say, hey, I can only press so many. So that, in order to do that, my price point has got to go up. So I think at first maybe it was $10 a book, but now, I imagine it's up to $20 a book to get pressed.
Well,
but
it's the golden age when people aren't doing it. Yeah. Because it's like coding when no one was coding. So if you could code, you could just charge whatever you wanted. So, like, get your money now if you're pressing books. Yeah. You hear that? That's my word to you, pressers out there. I don't know anything about it.
Well, that brings up an interesting point. I would kind of be interested to see, hear from someone who presses what kind of insurance they have to carry, if they have to carry insurance.
None.
What?
I would be terrified if I got like a $15,000 book potentially, and they're like, "Can you press this?" I'd be like, "No, no way."
No, I'd never heard of a single presser carrying any type of insurance or anything like that. I mean, it's still kind of the Wild West, and there's a lot of guys out there that are, putting a thing on Facebook that are saying, "Hey, I'm pressing books," and people will just send copies to them. So it's tough. But there's guys out there that are really fucking good. And not only are they really good at pressing, they're really good at grading a book. And it kind of goes back to the whole thing with Tim. We've all been through that where we think we're good at grading a book. We think we got the eye, but and we'll send our first couple books out to get graded, and we're all 90% of the time we're disappointed. You know what I mean? We all have those stories. I'm pretty sure, at least with those of us that have
Here's another one. There's no way I would have set that out thinking this was really going to come back a 9.0.
Yeah.
Even if I did want to get it signed by J. Scott Campbell, but there's no way I would have sent this out thinking that this is a 9.0.
Yeah.
So But I would say,
Tim's in the chat now.
There we go, Tim. Right as we're talking about you, man.
But if I were Tim, and just like I showed, if it's for your personal collection and the book means something to you and it's something you want to keep, then it doesn't matter. Just like I said, I've got a 7.5 Spider-Man 300, and I have it signed by Todd McFarlane. It's for my personal. It's always been for my personal collection. It's never going to go anywhere. So if it's for you, just do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
So that's where that. So I just want to say everybody ends up with that book. I mean, like, there's books when Brian and I decide to send books out to get pressed and graded, we get out an eye magnifying glass and we scour the book up and down. He looks at it, and then I look at it, and then we discuss it, and then we flag everything that we see on it to what we think it's going to be. Okay, that's pressable. That's not pressable. That's going to get a ding. That's not going to help nothing. So is this okay? Now that we've done this assessment, you know what? This book isn't worth it, and we'll set it aside, and we'll go on to the next book. We'll start it over, and we go through, and he looks at it, I look at it, we discuss it. Okay, we think this book will be lowest 9.2. Let's send it through. Let's take our chances with it.
How accurate are you? What's your percentage?
I think that we've gotten very accurate. I'm not going to toot my own horn because, I'm probably I am going to toot my own horn, but I'm not.
No, I want you to. I'm genuinely curious about, because I've listened to you guys talk. I've done it with you guys. I'm genuinely curious to know what your percentage is since you go through that detail.
So out of the books, the modern books that I've sent off without getting pressed, I've sent off 3 orders of books that are all modern that I made the mistake. I don't say it's a mistake. A lot of people say it's a mistake, but I like to do the pre-screen process where it's a 9.6. If it's not a 9.6 or better, I don't want it graded. And they're usually 10 or more books every time. And I've had 3 orders. My last 3 orders have all come back 100% 9.8. Now, again, those are all modern books. So it's a little bit easier. But I'm also the type of person that I'm not going to send off a Silver Age or a Golden Age or a Bronze Age book without getting it pressed first. Because if I'm sending off, at least for me, if I'm sending off a Golden Age or a Silver Age or not a Golden Age, but a Silver Age or a modern, Bronze Age book, it's going to be a semi-decent key. And with those keys, I want to get pressed. I don't want to take the chance. So like I said, I've got a magician out there that likes to do the pressing for me, and I really appreciate him. So it's kind of like having a good doctor, man. There's
or a good tailor.
Yeah, a good tailor. You're right.
And I was thinking about that as a comparison. Like, if you take shoes into like a cobbler or a suit into a tailor, and for some reason they fuck it up, I don't think they have to carry any insurance. So I don't know why pressing a book would be anything different.
No. And Dino, who's in the chat tonight, brings up a good point that also when you're getting a book, signed and that you're going to do signature series, you need even if you're not, a lot of people are sending books off to facilitators that are going to get their books signed, and so one of the problems that a lot of these artists do, especially Todd McFarlane, there's very few things that I will talk bad about Todd McFarlane, because he's just such a good dude, and he's a really nice guy. He's a big part of the local community here. But man, when you hand him a book, sometimes he'll manhandle that thing. And artists just, they don't look at it the same way that we do. Like these are big deals to us. They just I've seen Todd McFarlane manhandle Amazing Spider-Man, 300s. He's just, a lot of these artists, they just don't care. And I'm sure also that a lot of these artists are, because they look at it as these grading companies making money off of them, they hold a little bit of anger in there.
You think they might do it on purpose to a point?
I'm not going to say they do it on purpose, but I'm going to say they maybe might not pay as good as attention.
I think they don't care, because this is going to get signed and graded. So they're not they're not taking as good care of it. Like when I had Marv Wolfman sign my first Black Cat, he was like, "Here, let me show you something." He's just flipping through pages and he's folding it over and he's showing me, and I'm like, "Hey, fucker, it's my book." But I mean, what are you really going to say?
But that's also the reason why, like Dino said, that's why the windowing has become so popular, because it takes that out of the effect. But that way these guys can't pull the books out and fold them. Like I've seen a lot of these guys, they'll fold books. They'll hold them and they'll fold them. And
you're some old old comic book artist with like Parkinson's, and like you really want him to sign the book, but you're like, I don't know. He's like, you're like, easy there, buddy.
Yeah, man, but windowing books saves a lot of heartache. So make sure you guys do that if you plan on taking books to get signed.
But back to the original thing, Tim. It's your book. You're gonna keep it. Who cares the grade? It means something to you. If you want to get it signed and graded, get it signed and graded.
Yep. Tim, you gotta look inside your heart. Is what I would suggest. Look inside your heart.
Let your heart guide you. Yeah.
Turn on your heart light and follow it.
So that's enough of that.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that before I call it a night early on the show that I would like to talk about that just blew me away, that is on our outline, is the Black Adam. The fervor that's starting to build over Black Adam and the Rock, and that Jim Lee tweet that he put out. Of that drawing. I'm not sure that was a Jim Lee drawing. I'm not 100% sure. I think it might have been somebody else that Jim Lee was just putting out there. I've heard both versions, but what a beautiful piece of art that was, that Black Adam art. For those of you that didn't see it, go check out. It was on Twitter, Matt, that he posted that.
Yeah, it's been on Twitter, and The Rock, or Dwayne Johnson, has put it on Instagram. It's kind of been making the rounds.
Fucking gorgeous, and I am even more stoked to see The Rock play Black Adam. I'm really looking forward to this.
What book did that spawn everybody to start buying? There's a Jim Lee.
Well, there's a couple Black Adam books that are kind of like considered early appearances. Of course, his first appearance was in a Golden Age book. A lot of people are buying a Alter Ego book, which is a fanzine that was done by he's a creator, but before he was a creator, he did a fanzine called Alter Ego, and they did Black Adam on the cover, and that is kind of being talked about as the second appearance of Black Adam. But what a lot of people are going and buying is a book that they've been kind of buying for a while now, but it's this drawing has caused this book that I'm getting ready to talk about to just shoot up the charts. Was this week it was named on the CBSI Hot 10 list as #1, and that is the Shazam, the first Shazam series that DC did. I think it was issue 28, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what one of your guys just said in the chat.
Yeah, and that book is it's not an easy book to find in high grade, and it was kind of swooped up out of a lot of the back issue bins many years ago when this whole comic speculation thing first started. But it kind of dropped because of the weight that we've all had in the Black Adam stuff, and now it's just back up there. So a lot of people are calling that the first modern appearance of Black Adam. There's a couple of issues with Black Adam and Shazam that you can find in the second series also. I think there's like a DC Comic Presents issue with Black Adam also in Shazam. So there's a lot of issues that people are buying and selling right now. But
I thought there was another Jim Lee cover that people were going after now because of that Black Adam.
There's an Alex Ross cover that a lot of people have been searching for years. I'm not sure about a Jim Lee cover. If anybody is in the chat knows of one, I can't think of one. So
I don't think it was like a Black Adam cover, but I think there's another cover that Jim Lee did. I think that's like kind of like it or something that people are going after.
Well, the art, I was talking about, wasn't that Jim Lee did do. I don't believe it was of Jim Lee's art. It was that Boss Logic guy. But Jim Lee saw it and was just like, "Oh, this is so cool! I'm gonna retweet it," and I'm glad he did because it's beautiful.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. So, very cool. Well, guys, I'm gonna step away, and if I get back before you're done, if I don't get back before you're done, Travis, great having the show with you, man.
Yeah, real pleasure. Thanks, man.
Talk to you soon, man.
For sure.
Kyle and Matt, see you soon, guys.
See you later.
Later.
So yeah, that Black. In case anyone's wondering, Black Adam has a 2022 release date, I believe. Is it 2022 or 2021? Let me check. Double check. I thought it was 2022. No, 2021.
Do you think they're going to make that more of a serious film, or do you think they're going to go closer to like a Shazam style with it?
I'm expecting Shazam 2.
Are you?
I'm expecting Shazam 2, yeah.
So Shazam, Black Adam? Shazam?
Shazam. Tim,
Yeah,
hey guys, this is 2019. Can't he just be Adam? Why does he got to be Black Adam?
That was pretty good. That's good. That's solid. Yeah, it's gonna be a rock movie. You know, it's gonna be a rock movie.
That has me a little bit worried too.
I mean, Rock is
a little bit.
Rock is like Arnold. Like Arnold had two speeds. He had Kindergarten Cop, and then he had Terminator, and then in the middle was Last Action Hero. So maybe we'll get like a Last Action Hero type of Rock movie where he's like half serious.
Do you, being the holiday season, do you fit Jingle All the Way in there and that Kindergarten Cop?
Yeah, that's on that side of the spectrum.
Okay.
And by spectrum, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger's on the spectrum.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine. They're good. They're good, but you know what you're gonna get. So, I don't know. I mean, if the trailer's good, you know, it's fine. But I get it. If you're a Rock fan, I would be salivating. But I'm not a detractor, nor am I a fan. I'm just kind of like The Rock is just this kind of force in movies. You know, hit his mark and he hits his lines and he looks cool. And you could dress him up as anything. He's gonna look badass pretty much. So,
dude, he's badass when he's fucking Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Well, someone like who's our boy playing Batman now?
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson. So Robert Pattinson casting is interesting because whether you like his movies or not, you know that he is going to bring something to it, and you don't know what that is. Now, you could hate that thing, or you could really love that thing, but you don't know what it is. So there is this sense of mystery in how it's going to get played. When The Rock gets cast at something, there isn't that, like, you can picture what that is going to look like to a certain degree. And so I like it when I love it when a casting inspires talk as far as, well, what's he going to do? What take is he going to bring it to it? A lot of dimensions. And I think The Rock has two speeds, and we'll get one of those or somewhere in the middle. Whereas some actors, they have, you know, quite a bit of depth and versatility. So,
well, he's very much to your point, though. He's very much got that Arnold speed. It's either Fast and the Furious or the Tooth Fairy, you know,
yeah.
or you know, Jumanji, or
any movie with Kevin Hart in him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or what's the other one that he did? Other like terrible Disney movie he did. The Game Plan. So like, there's just he's very much, like you said, to your credit, very much like Arnold, two speeds.
Yeah, and I sometimes I get in my head, I'm like, oh, I don't want to see that because I know what I'm gonna get, but I forget that there are 10-year-olds out there who are it's going to be perfect. It's going to be the perfect speed for them. The Rock playing Black Adam is going to be some 10-year-olds. I can't say 10-year-old and Wet Dream together. That seems weird, but yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Let's not go down that road.
Yeah, and I am expelled from the chat. There we go.
Well, like, I want to see, and it's interesting, if they're going to do it in a Shazam 2, I want to see him bring in the Superman character that they tease at the end of it. Bring back Henry Cavill, somebody that's the same size as The Rock. So I just want to see the Superman and Black Adam just have a knockdown, drag out, big screen brawl. Like, just a vicious brawl, like a Fast and the Furious type brawl, not some goofy, like, Shazam 1 type brawl.
That's a good point, Matt. If we're gonna do The Rock and we're gonna have these two, like, just put some other muscle-bound dude and just have them just pound each other for like, God damn it, why do I keep like for like 20 minutes? Too much podcasting today.
I think you're getting the
Always
Disney Plus.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what? I have a rule: always jerk off before podcasting, and I did not do it.
Pound each other.
It is, yeah. So I think if you're gonna do it, then give people what they want, just like this big superhero, mash them up, you know? Yeah.
Sparkle bat. Yeah, I just think you gotta go just knock down, drag out, big old
Pound that shit.
Yeah, just pound it into the ground.
Pound the fuck out of that shit.
Yeah, put Rockets like Doomsday and just have that fight that. What was the last time you read The Death of Superman? I didn't realize we did a podcast a couple years ago on it. Like, just the whole book is like just splash pages, just giant splash pages of that fight. And I was like, yeah, put that on screen. Just give me the splash page version of The Rock and Henry Cavill fighting each other.
I'd be down for that, 100%.
Dude, I'd love to see them pound each other.
You could probably the internet could probably has that. The internet could probably make that happen for you, Kyle.
It's out there anytime you want it, Kyle.
Yeah.
Oh
Just
my
a couple
god!
Keystrokes away.
Pound Fest, 2020.
So
That's awesome.
There's an interesting article I saw, or that I think you posted it, Kyle, and Bleeding Cool, about the comic industry needing disruption and needing almost a reset. And looking at some of this stuff here, they kind of got some interesting. I kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Do you guys think it needs disrupting and kind of a reset, the comic industry? We were kind of talking about that with you guys talking about the comic bubble popping like in the 90s again, and kind of how they're handling that. What do you feel on that?
By disruptive, you mean in a sense of like business-wise disruptive, like as far as the process of having like basically like a big two system, or like a creator kind of renaissance as far as disruptive, like new things coming in?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. It's just like it's kind of like right now they're saying the market size is there, but the industry isn't profitable because nobody's buying. So it's almost doing like a reset, kind of like the 90s crash to lower and kind of reset everything to get everything back in line with each other, to where it's not so oversaturated, and it kind of aligns your market with the product back up.
This very much sounds like podcasting, where podcasting's at as well.
Yes.
Right. Needs a correction.
Yeah. What form would that take? There is this sense that young artists can get these digital tablets, and you can create these comics with you and your buddy at home, and they're much easier to put out digitally and things like that. I wonder if the disruption will come from young amateur creators coming in and catching fire here and there. That's the unfortunateness of that, is that sometimes that's going to be more of a digital form, and I really love the holding a comic. Or do we need a total collapse of the big two?
Did you have a My Little Monster, My Pet Monster
Pet Monster back there? Yeah, I've had that bad boy. So as a kid though, I lost the cuffs. Those things were like in too many like wars as a kid. You get cuffs.
Sorry. Back to your point. Sorry.
No, it's no problem. Yeah, so I don't know what the disruption would be. The two, Marvel and DC. One of the things that is really sad is, the whole entertainment industry is propped up on the IP from these comic books and decades of comic books, but the books themselves, the medium, isn't getting the attention and love and money. So all these creators are just having their creations kind of pulled from them and turned into these billion-dollar properties. So it's weird. I think DC has even hinted at the idea, like, we're going to downsize, and because we have decades and decades and decades of IP and stories that creators can pull from. But I don't know. I don't know what it would take for a major change to come to the industry where people actually got more excited and put their dollars into comics.
I think what needs to happen is, and I think this is where the correction is going to come. And this is what I was having this discussion earlier with my buddy Chuck, that's got those awesome books, and Brian is. I think where the correction is going to come is, what happens is we're having too many bad stories. We're having too many bad art. We're having too much on top of like Marvel. How many Spider-Man books are there? 9? 9 different Spider-Man titles. That's the good thing about DC, is they're cutting everything back a little bit. They're going more to a core, while Marvel seems to be spreading back out. And I think what happens is once, that was the awesome thing about comics, was there was these awesome stories that you could get into, and it was month after month. You couldn't wait because it was just this unraveling of this story. And what happens is we're getting these wham bam, thank you man, not that good stories, and people are like, well, what's the point, because I'm going to get this crappy story, then they're just going to start it over again anyway, so what's the point?
How much?
I think you're right, Kyle. I think people are attracted to the exotic. If you make something exotic, where you can't just get like 5 different versions of it, there's maybe a more of a chance to get more people. If you like this flavor, this is the only flavor there is. You either go to this spot or you don't get it. and I think maybe creators, the big creators, usually have their own independent projects, and then they pay their bills with doing a run on something like a Spider-Man or something like that. So yeah, I think maybe pulling those back and limiting the titles, and these publishers being a little bit more selective on what they put out there would probably help.
How much of it do you think is the current time we live in, though, too? Because a lot of these comics going back in the day dealt with issues that it was a more reserved time, and it dealt with issues that weren't at the forefront of politics and weren't at the forefront of everyday life like everything is now. So drug use and kind of things that are everyday norm now were very reserved, and people kind of looked at comic books as interesting media tackling those subject matters that now you turn on the news and it's just, like you said, it's everyday issues. Drug use is not, drug use is rampant, and through teens, and it's not as big a deal watching someone shoot heroin now as like when they put it in a comic book, or just some of the subject matters they handled in old school comics versus, the culture we live in today. It's hard to get that solid, like, connecting story, I think, today than it was years ago. Because people didn't have that community, I guess, to reach out to say, oh, I'm part of this, gender equality or women's rights or whatever group, that narrative.
I see what you're saying. So the comics used to be like the outsider's medium. It was like, this is a place to go to feel connected, to feel seen, to feel and there's so many other outlets for that. Is that what you're saying, Matt, today?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, comics have always been an outsider's medium. Well, I mean, that's a very broad statement, but I think outsiders have always been attracted to comics. I think we're actually still propping the industry up. But yeah, that's a good point. That maybe there's just so many other outlets that people don't have to read the X-Men to realize it's okay to be different. Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing from this article. So it says that since the comic crash of '96, the industry has staggered. The market is there, but the sales are low. Estimated North American market sales for print comics has grown 50.30% between '97 and 2018, from 500.64 million to 995 million. Despite all these potential buyers, unit sales of the top 300 comics for each month fell by 22.76% between 97 and 2018.
Okay, that's a lot of years there, but that's still a big drop for an industry.
So I guess,
it is a lot.
They're talking about like the reset being like, what if one day the big two, Marvel and DC, woke up and said, we're not going to put our comics in stores anymore. It's going to be Amazon. You want a weekly reader, you got to order it from Amazon. Or they went to just an online-based subscription service versus putting them in actual stores.
Oh, they've already done that.
Well, I mean, no stores at all. So it's all predominantly, if you want new releases, it's going to be predominantly online or like subscription based.
Oh, you mean so how we buy most everything now?
Well, grocery wise, yeah. And well, yes, you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the things we order now or buy, it comes in the mail. So it's not that out of the box thinking to say, okay, I'm going to go, and they already do it. There's already sites where you just go on and you type in what you want, and then you get your books mailed to you. I mean, there are already a lot of services that do that. So it's not that crazy. What they should do is limit the middleman that you just go straight to DC and you just have a pull list that it's just like, like back in the day when you would get Mad Magazine and you clipped the subscription out, you wrote a check, you told them that you wanted a 1-year subscription, you put it in an envelope, you mailed it off, and then you got Mad Magazine in the mail. And what's the difference of going to DC and Marvel and just saying, hey, okay, I want these titles, and they come to you in the mail every month. When I don't want that title anymore, I just uncheck it.
Mm-hmm.
The real danger for this, and for me, is I think that comics have the best writers working in them today. The best contemporary writers are working in comics. The most creative, most inventive, with dialogue, with stories, with worlds, and they can do that for a low budget. You can create these whole worlds and universes or these intimate stories. And the writers who are doing it right now, they're the ones who are sticking with comics. They're doing it because they grew up on this stuff, and it means so much to them. The mediums give them so much. But I think the young writers today, the 16-year-olds today, who didn't grow up, because that 22% drop, that means less kids 16-year-olds are reading comics. I don't think that's the main buyer of comics now. And so the young creative writers today aren't seeing comics as a profitable way to make a living as a writer, whereas I look at my trades, your Millers and all these great, for some reason I can't think of anything, but they don't. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the creative well that comics are going to lose if we don't start getting comics in the hands of young kids and writers to look at this as a valuable place to tell a story. Right now, comic books for a lot of people are like training ground until I can get like a screenplay deal or I can write for a show. When it shouldn't be a training, it should be the goal is to write for comics. And fortunately, we have so many writers like Scott Snyder, who I think will always be writing comics because they grew up with them. They've had comics in their hands since they were kids. But if that market share is dropping, that means that it's probably our kids aren't writing them, and so aren't reading them, which means that when they're adults, those young creative writers aren't going to be writing them, which sucks.
That's a solid point.
I think there's always going to be, and I think this is going to be part of the correction too. There's always going to be people that are buying them. There's always going to be. I just think it's just. I just think that's where the world is. I just think people don't want to go out to buy them anymore. And I think that's part of the problem.
Isn't going to your local comic shop kind of like going to the movies, though? You go for the experience. You go for the atmosphere of the shop, the like-minded people like you that are in the shop, the conversation, the camaraderie.
Don't buy like that anymore. That's not the mindset of people now.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, I'm gonna go to Walmart to get this, or oh fuck, I'm gonna go to Best Buy. You know what? I'm just gonna go on Amazon and I'm just gonna have it shipped to my house. Forget it. It's so much easier. I don't have to get in my car. I don't have to deal with traffic. I don't have to deal with stupid people. I don't have to go there and have some dumbass trying to sell me something. I can go online and just buy exactly what I want, and it shows up at my door the next day.
Spinner racks were a big loss in that, because spinner racks, going back to what I was talking about, getting young kids to read comics at a gas station. If you're on a road trip with your family and you pull over for gas, if there's a spinner rack next to the counter, you might pull an issue off, and your parents might put the buck down, and you can read it in the backseat of the car, and then like your whole world opens up. So not only, as you were saying, Matt, actually going to the comic book stores, which is a bit nichey and like it's definitely a culture there, but just the ability to like seeing a comic and picking it up, like I got a big shit a brewing. Let me grab this so when I get home I have something to read. The accessibility of comics to the civilians isn't there. You have to go search for it, and you kind of almost have to know what you want. When we go into a comic book shop, we I guess that's not true because some of the fun of going to the comic shop is getting the recommendations, but I don't know.
Well, it's even just like that book that catches your eye that you normally wouldn't read, that you're like, let me check this out, and it becomes one of those things that is becomes a weekly reader, you know, or
right.
It's just that's part of the joy of the comic book shopping, or you like going to the shop to see all these books that you wish you could have, but then quickly realize you're poor and can't afford them, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
How expensive they are. And
beautiful omnibuses just sitting there laughing at you.
I walk in and then I walk back out. I don't really sit there and I don't really shoot the shit with anybody. I don't really thumb around anywhere. Everything I want's already in a box. I pick up the box. As soon as they hand me my books, I set my books down. They scan them. There's a little bit of chit chat, and then I walk out with my books. Like it's not an event for me. It's just something I do on my way home. I just grab my books. Like, when was the last time you went and you just sat there and you hung out at the comic book store? You don't. You run in, you grab your shit, and you leave because you've got a million other things to do. Or I'm getting them on my break, or I'm just grabbing them.
Well, I mean, you know, I don't know. I had a Wednesday. I went in the comic book shop, picked up my weekly readers, and I kind of looked around a little bit and, you know, asked about the Walking Dead book that's coming out for comic book shop day, and kind of talked to the cashier a little bit about Walking Dead and went on my way. So I mean, it's still that little bit of chit chat of what you like, and comparing and contrasting, you know, your fandoms with other people that are in there. That I think it's a lost art.
I'm in 20 different comic book groups where I talk to people about comics every day. Why do I need to go? Why do I need to go to a comic book store and talk to the cashier about it when I can talk to 1,200 people about it?
Because you got to get out there and make friends in real life, Kyle.
No, I love digital friends.
So, like Mike just said, my LSC is my escape from all the shit I have going on. So I mean, I guess it's all on how you really look at it.
Yeah,
but
I'm not a.
You're becoming a recluse. That's your end game is to be a recluse. That's what
Matt.
What
should we start the intervention? I think it's about time. So we brought you on here today, and I'm a licensed interventionist, and we were worried. We're worried about it. How much did you spend on those Spider-Mans, Kyle? How much did you spend on those Spider-Mans? You got a problem.
Too much.
I do. I'm sorry, guys. You're right. You know, we're all going to go around and say something we love about you, and then we're going to really rip you a new one.
But that's just my thing. I just don't. I don't know. I don't like to hang out somewhere. I'm in and I'm out. I got shit to do. Everything takes too long.
You know, I thought was on the idea of that community. What I thought was really neat was it last week that I don't think you guys went to Tucson, right? You guys didn't go to Tucson.
No.
But like the Couch Country guys went, the other podcast, and you know, I know they hang out digitally, and some of them are closer friends than others. But they just all went down to Tucson. They was all hanging out in a room podcasting. They spent a day. I'm like, that's kind of cool. Like, just you could just spend a whole day talking and shopping comics. And I go, that sounds like a pretty good day to me, just talking shit and drinking beers with some comic book bros. And I was like, oh man, that sounds like a really fun time. And you can get that experience, Kyle, at your local comic book shop on a weekly basis.
Or like Chad says, you can go for the hot chicks.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The hot babes that are always at your
propping the industry up.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it's just different ways to look at it. But I get yeah. You know, I just go there to take care of what I need to take care of, and it's not bullshitting.
So you don't think it would benefit from resetting or doing things differently?
What, sitting at the local comic book store?
No, just like the whole like
industry
as a whole.
The only correction I see is just the craziness with prices. It's hard to. There's too many Wednesday people that all they're doing is they're going from shop to shop to get the next hot thing so that they could sell it Wednesday for triple the price. I think that's what kind of needs to correct.
And I think you're 100% right. I think that's
some books that are always going to be expensive because it's just there's X amount of them. There's there's just certain things about them that's going to keep the price. But like, you walk in, like you have the mentality, or I do. I'm like, fuck. I'm glad that's on my pull list.
Like Chuck just said, Kyle doesn't people well.
I don't people well at all. But like. And I salute all three of you that are my friends. I just I forgot. God damn it, Chuck.
Yeah, we're not so much worried about the alcoholism, but we are worried about the sad loneliness.
I forgot what I was saying. God damn it. I think variants are killing it.
Well, no, that's you're kind of putting on that. The speculation market is kind of like driving it, where you're getting all these different covers and people going from shop to shop.
Because I was like, like that Batman Beyond that was hot a couple weeks ago. I'm like, shit, good thing it's on my pull list, because if I didn't, I couldn't just go there and pick that book up and check it out because it's gone. And I think that's where the correction needs to happen, is the hot book of the week needs to tone down a little bit. That's all.
Well, and I think that you're onto something there, and I think that the speculators and the flippers are driving things like that too, because it's making harder and harder for the normal guy, like you're saying, Joe Schmo, to just go in the comic book shop that reads this book regularly and goes in there to try to pick up the issue, and it's gone because flippers have already got it, and you can't find it anywhere, and you're going to pay triple the price. At that point, you're just going to be like, forget it.
You could get the story still. There's other ways to get the story, but like comics in the 90s became that fetish. It became a fetish market, and just like vinyl, those assholes who will go and like buy a bunch of vinyl and stuff like that. And yeah, it's and the industry doesn't profit off the fetishizing of comics. It's just these prospectors. So the artists and the writers, they're not getting the money from the flippers, and those are the people, like we said, that we want to keep in the industry.
So their books are being cleared off as shelves.
Yeah,
so
that's true. I guess you're right. Yeah,
DC and Marvel, they're still making all their money. It's just the regular person who wants that book. And there's always the argument of, well, it should have been on your pull list, but I think that's like Matt's saying, part of going to a comic shop is being able to pull it off the wall. I shouldn't have to battle and have this huge list. I should just be able to walk in and get my books.
Mm-hmm. That's your guys' t-shirt. It should have been on your pull list. That should be your absolute geek shirt.
Michael
should have been on your pull list, bitch.
Mike says, call them what they are, scalpers.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess at the same time, what's wrong with making a buck? There's nothing wrong with making a buck, but it's my fault for having to be at work, I guess. I don't know.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with making a buck. It's just crazy. Like you said, when you get a book that you're like, oh, this is going to be the hot book, and you can't find it anywhere for a week, and then it just dies because that speculation market just drives everything so much. And
I just think that's where the correction is going to be, because there's not going to be a crash, because like I said before, they don't print as many books as they used to. In the 90s, they printed 60,000 books, and then, hey, we're out. Fuck, we're not going to go to a second print. We're just going to order 60,000 more first prints.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, and they don't do that. There's a cutoff. Once they're ordered, they're ordered. Sometimes you can order them again if there's overstock sitting at Diamond, but they're not printing 20,000 more to fill. It goes to a second print, which they only print X amount, so it's actually a smaller run. So I think, that's one way it's always going to keep it regulated. So, and I know there's a lot of variants and shit, but everybody likes pretty covers.
Well, I saw in the chat earlier, people were saying that covers that have nothing to do with the story and the interior now, like you're getting variants.
Every issue with The Walking Dead.
Yeah, true.
That was every cover of The Walking Dead for almost 200 issues.
That's true. Very true.
You would see a cool cover to it. You'd read through it. God damn it, that's not even fucking close to what's going on. It's kind of. I thought that was something that's cool.
Yeah.
Now it's even more of a mystery just because you have this cool cover. It has nothing to do with what's going on. I think that's cool.
They do a lot of the covers where they'll take a character and they'll put him in some sort of other pop cultural landscape. It will be like Wolverine, but it's the the movie film poster of Mad Max, and it has nothing to do with the, like they do like, oh, you like Mad Max, you like Wolverine? Well, here's Wolverine as Mad Max in this cover of this random Wolverine issue, drawn by Scotty Young or something like that.
I think that's cool though when they do stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
me too, because at least it's great wall art. Like it's a fun book to look at. I'd rather that than just 4 different versions of a cover. It's like, make it something fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But kind of
fucking threw me off.
What threw you
Oh
off?
damn, that like button.
Kind of going back to the beginning of the show here. I apologize. We kind of jumped right into it. We didn't give you a chance to kind of explain, Travis. Why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what you guys do over at Comic Exposure and kind of where they can find you, and just a little bit about your guys' show.
Yeah, so we've been podcasting for a while. We're actually about to reach our 5 years podcasting. It's myself and my podcast partner, Joshua Buckley. We used to teach together. And right before I left the school, we both realized we like comics. And so we started podcasting. But the idea behind it at first, in its original incarnation, was we would read a graphic novel or trade every week. And then we would get someone who typically doesn't read comics. Like maybe they had never read a comic before, or maybe it'd been like 15, 20 years since they read a comic. And Josh and I would read the trade, and we'd get them to read the trade or graphic novel, and then we'd sit and talk about it. So Josh and I would carry the load as far as like, oh yeah, I think this and this, but then we'd get the newbies, the civilians' perspective on it, and we talk about the medium of comics and what it brings to a story. And so it was fun getting people on, and sometimes they'd really light up and be like, oh my God, I like this. I didn't know comics could be like that. And we're like, yeah. And some of them still will read, they'll pick up the comics from time to time, or they'll come back and ask us for more suggestions. But then we ran out of friends who hadn't read comics. So we had to change the format up a little bit. So we still treat it as kind of like a graphic novel or trade book club. We'll read a standalone graphic novel, or we'll read we do a lot of first volumes. Like we might read the first volume of Black Science and talk about that, or Southern Bastards. Next week's issue is going to be Miller's Superman Year One. So we're reading those 3 oversized issues, and so it's just a place to go. If your world is very insulated, maybe you don't go to the comic book store, but you love comics, you just don't have anyone around you who you can talk to about comics, then you can go on to the podcast at comicexposure.com or on iTunes or podcast apps. And if it's a major trade or run or seminal piece of work, there's a good chance that we've done it. We've done a lot of the major runs and wall books that you'll see at a comic book store. So, your Dark Knight Returns and all that stuff. So if you've read it and you want to hear someone break it down for an hour and crack a few jokes, then comicexposure.com.
There you go. And when do you guys normally record?
It's on the weekend. I'm in Japan, so it's a little bit harder to sync up times. So one of the reasons we don't do a video as well is because we don't have that weekly set time. So it's 1 week we'll do a comic book club, and then usually the next week we'll do what we call a variant issue, where we'll just kind of do what you guys are doing here. We'll just shoot the shit about the Mandalorian, or like we'll pose scenarios, like if you go Thanksgiving dinner, which comic characters do you invite, which do you not, that type of just stupid shit. And those actually get listened to more than the actual like educational comic book club ones. But yeah, so we are not as regular as you guys. Sometimes we skip a week, sometimes it's 2 weeks, but we try to get in grooves and things like that.
Like Tim in our chat just said about your original concept, if you're a fucking hermit like Kyle, you're gonna love that podcast.
Yeah. You read like a book and you're like, man, I want to talk about this, but either like people are gonna make fun of me or I don't have any comic book friends. So we'll be your friends. We'll be your friends, guys.
Isn't that what a podcast can be?
Butterfly in the sky. Yeah. I can fly twice as high.
Damn.
That's
You got
Is that,
Ford
that
going.
is that on Disney Plus? I would binge some Reading
Rainbow.
Rainbow.
No.
Yeah.
That's PBS, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't take my word for it. But yeah, I think. Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about this week? Anything else on your mind, Kyle?
I'm just bummed out.
Kyle's having a Dark Night of the Soul now.
I'm just bummed out. 2 weeks in a row, I couldn't give this fucking book away. So you know what? Now I'm fucking keeping it, fuckers.
There you go.
Such
Strong
rage.
words.
Such
from
a
an
rage.
emotional man.
Yeah.
From a hermit.
From a fucking hermit.
You see this? I keep it now. I keep it. I'm keeping it.
I tried to give it away. I tried really hard.
You did. Strong
We got
words.
close,
Fucking
just
hermit.
not close enough.
What do you guys got coming up? You guys got anything big in the works as far as like you guys doing anything live or you guys doing anything special coming up?
Fucking right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
live right now. What are you talking
Obviously.
about?
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to do it on the back of like a milk truck or something like that. I don't know.
We've got some stuff in the works where we're planning some places where we're going to sit and do it live places.
Nice.
We got some stuff in the works. I think Chad's yelling at me in the chat.
It's a renaissance
kinda cool.
period. We're going
Like,
through a renaissance period.
Yeah. Our boy Kevin Smith does that one of his shows at that Star Wars themed cantina in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And you get people just kind of come in and chat around there. I thought that's a kind of a cool way to do things.
Yeah, like I said, we've got some stuff in the works. We're trying to figure some stuff out. But our next big event that we have coming up is, guys, don't forget our holiday specials coming up in a couple weeks. So we want to make sure you get those favorite episodes in.
Oh.
And
You got to call us and let us know your. Are they calling again this year?
I'm trying to decide if I want to do call-in or have them come on live.
Everybody message Matt for his phone number so you guys can call in and you can leave a message about your favorite moment. Fuck it, you guys can call me. You guys want my phone number?
Cantina.
Let me know and I'll figure out a way to get it recorded, and so that, because I like it. I don't want a goddamn email. I want you guys to call me because I'm a hermit.
But like an old answering machine, you have to have a bit. It has to be a good bit to it.
Hi, you reached out from the Absolute Geek Podcast.
George Costanza.
So, yeah, I like when we would play the messages. I liked when Google would transcribe them, and then we would transcribe them the way Google said it, and then we would actually listen to their message.
All right, so that's what we'll do. We will post in the next couple of weeks. We will post a phone number for you guys to call. And
on fucking Monday.
we will post a phone number for you guys to call in to leave
On
voicemails
Monday.
about your favorite episode from the past year. We're gonna compile them and put them together in the holiday
Fucking people
special.
better call.
Yeah.
Some goddamn phone calls.
You're in for some heartbreak, kids.
Yeah. You're gonna get one phone call and say, "Hi, Kyle, it's your mom," and then your dad's just gonna say,
I'm so proud of you.
Your dad's just gonna be like, "Howdy," and then hang up.
Perfect. Yeah,
Absolute
Michael, you
Geek,
better
please
call.
Absolute Geek, please hold.
Please hold.
That's all our chat is right now, is being spammed. Please hold.
I'll say like, Kyle's the Annie Potts. We got one.
Yep. But I guess that'll nothing else. What, you guys got anything other exciting coming up in comic exposure, or?
We do we always do a Christmas list. Like, hey, what are like the things that you want for Christmas? Like geek stuff you want for Christmas. And then like last year, I think a couple of family members started listening. So like we were like, holy shit, this is just like a way to get shit. Now,
Tim gonna get a bunch of calls about your vehicle warranty.
But it's expired.
That's actually pretty interesting, though. Your geek Christmas list.
Yeah, good things. Everyone's got a geek in their life that they're like, I don't know how to buy for this person. So that episode's all about like, hey, they'll probably like this.
Or you end up with a Sony PlayStation controller mug, or
Oh, dude, where is that?
They're like, let me go to thinkgeek.com.
Yeah. You end up with some crazy shit that you
I think it's nerdy. Video
an
games.
R2D2 cutting board. Oh my god!
right.
Where's my Darth Vader rolling pin?
Yeah.
But guys, I want to thank you all for hanging out.
Fake account for nothing.
I want to thank everyone for hanging out in the chat tonight. I want to thank Travis for joining us and filling in for Corbin. Hopefully we can have him back real soon. Guys, check out
I'd love to have you guys on Comic Exposure too. We'll get a trade or a graphic novel.
Absolutely. Definitely love to do it. Kyle's always down to go on other shows. You just got to make sure you have a shirt for him, because he hops for shirts.
Okay, cool. We'll pod for shirts.
Yep, we'll pod for shirts.
Oh yeah. You give me a shirt, I'll do anything almost. I'll go on your show.
I like how drastically that declined from "I'll do anything almost" to "I'll just go on your show."
I'll just go on your show.
Real quick.
Well, I mean, it's only a fucking shirt. I can't say I do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, you can clean up after using it. Sure.
But guys, check out Travis on Comic Exposure. If this is your first time listening to us on YouTube, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're listening to us on Monday and you just somehow found us, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review on
And then
iTunes.
call in and leave something for us
Yes.
for our holiday episode.
Yes, we will be posting the phone number through the rest of the episodes of the year.
Michael said we have to go longer. He's not drunk enough yet.
I'm sorry.
Obviously, he's not drinking the Gentleman's Jack.
There you go. We got to get you your own whiskey deal, Kyle.
Yeah, no kidding. That's
This episode of Absolute Geek Podcast is brought to you by Jack Daniels Gentleman Jack.
We got to get
a
you
smooth distilled whiskey. I don't even like Jack Daniels. Fuck you guys.
Are you a social pariah who likes a drink? Gentleman Jack.
Got to get you that whiskey deal. Maybe that's what we'll work on for 2020. Getting you a
Mandalorian.
Yep, that's right. Keep on. That must be one of the drinking game words, huh? Mandalorian and Star Wars. But that'll do it for this week's episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast, guys. I'm Matt.
I'm drunk, Kyle.
And I'm Travis.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.